Thank you, Martin. And I think I'm going to be very short because these were two very good papers, indeed two fascinating presentations. And I learned a lot listening to both of you. Although I have to say, the taste that's left after listening to you is very different. After having listened to Tobias, showing how he can use Google Trends to predict the stock market, I thought I would go home tonight, and start my computer and go on Google Trends and make some money, right? So I thought this was quite exciting. But then I listened to Copier, who said that, it's all crappy data, and in fact, you need an army of interns, even worse than interns, craftsmen. So it's not so. So I think the best way to summarize is that the opportunities are huge to get something quite interesting, and the challenges are equally huge, to make sense of all of it, which I think is a fair statement of where we stand here. But I thought I would comment a little bit about how us at the OECD we can make use of this type of work on big data and what it means for us, and then raise questions for the two speakers. And obviously at the OECD we're not in the business of making money on the stock market. I'm glad that you can predict the stock market, but we are more in the business of detecting trends, looking at vulnerabilities, warning our countries about risks, encouraging member countries to take preventive measures if there are risks ahead of them, understanding the mechanism, the channels, the transmission, the spillovers, the risk of contagions. So we are really in the business of analyzing complexities and making sense of complexities. I think it's fair to say that we didn't make a good job in 2008 to predict the financial crisis or to predict the recession altogether. Not only the OECD, but most economists. Although I think it would be unfair to say that we didn't learn any lessons from past crises, because in terms of recovering from the crisis, in terms of resolution, in terms of bringing the banking systems back to health, I think the advice and the work that has been done by government has been pretty good. At the OECD, my job is to follow a number of countries. Two of them are Ireland and Iceland. And it's fair to say that both Ireland and Iceland had very severe financial crises. The whole banking system collapsed in Iceland, and a big part of it in Ireland. Now, I visited Reykjavik and Dublin in the last few weeks. Turns out they have the fastest GDP growth expected in 2015. Nearly Chinese type of GDP growth, so the recovery is there. And I think it's fair to say that we learned from the the Great Depression of the 1930s how to recover from the financial crisis and not to make the same mistakes again. But when we look back at the financial crisis, I think it's relatively easy with hindsight to see what happened. And what happened was really very complex. We thought the banking system was a neutral part of the monetary system. It's not. The banks have they behave in ways that are unexpected. There are all sorts of non-linearities in the system. The system is subject to regulatory arbitrage. There are problems of moral hazard, problems of too big to fail. Credit and liquidity tends to be pro-cyclical. The quality of capital in the banking system is not as high as we thought initially. There's a lot of interconnectedness in the system, and I think previous work by Copier was very interesting in the sense that we thought that interconnectedness was a good way to spread the risk around the system. In fact, it turns out that it was not the case, and the risk was very concentrated, and it turns out that interconnectedness worked against financial stability when stress appeared. Turns out that the various asset classes which we thought were not correlated were in fact correlated, and the bank portfolio were behaving in the same manner, although they were supposed not. So in a way, the last crisis was very complex, and I think it's fair to say that there will be another crisis, and where it's going to come from, no one knows. And it's probably going to be complex also, but it's complex in ways that are difficult to predict. So all that leads me to the point of, how can we use this sort of work to improve our predictability and, help us warn the governments. So one first question I have for Tobias is, in the work when you look at Google Trend and the stock market, are we really looking at predicting the stock market, or are we just looking at correlation? In a way, how can you tell that what's happening on Google Trends sort of happens before what happened on the stock market, or is Google Trends just revealing what's happening in the stock market? I think in your presentation you were careful to talk about nowcasting and does data help us understand where we stand and maybe predict, but to what extent really can we predict, and to what extent the data you're looking at is just reveal already the consequences of disorders in the financial system. So I think there is an issue of can we measure, perhaps, but can we really predict? I think that's a big question. Related to that, I think it would be interesting to know from you, when you do your work, how many false positives do you have? Because I think you've shown us, correct positive, but when you came to the Google problem of forecasting a flu epidemics that did not happen, that triggered me, how much false positive there is out there. Because if there are many false positive and warning signals that the system would trigger, I think would reduce the credibility and the usefulness of the whole exercise. Now, having said that, I think having data available very quickly, in the sense of helping us nowcast the system, would be very useful. I know that, for instance, telephone companies using international telephone calls are able to predict international trade, in a contemporary manner. So if that is true, I think that would be a very useful input to us. Maybe quickly, one question also to Tobias. What you detected there is a financial market anomaly, right? In principle, one should not be able to make, gains on the stock market, that, are predictable and go beyond the random walk. And as you know, anomalies tend to disappear once they are detected. So do you have any comment on that? Now, in terms of, both of you and especially Copier, what would be your advice to the OECD in terms of, using big data to improve our kind of work, improve our understanding of the system, improve, how we can detect trends, how we can detect possible vulnerabilities. The beauty of the OECD is that we have a special relationship with governments. Martin spoke about our special relationship with Statistical Institute. We have also a special relationship with Ministry of Finance, with Central Bank. The point of confidentiality is a bit reduced for us because we have a trusted relationship. In my work, I've been able to access the 2.5 million income tax statement in Ireland. And the reason I was able to do that, they would not have done that with an academic or private sector researcher, is that they trust us. So is there an opportunity for the OECD to do that? But then if we have to go to anonymized data, what sort of challenge do you see in anonymizing data? Can that really work? I think I'll stop there.